Hi, this is Dr. Dan Tweeten at Tweeten Family Chiropractic. I'm going to be talking about spinal misalignments. We'll discuss why they happen, why they matter and we should care about them, but most importantly, what we can do to fix them. I myself am no stranger to spinal misalignments. I played football in high school and college, and my body was under constant stress and force that would throw my back out. This is where I gained an appreciation for chiropractic treatment. My dad was a chiropractor, and he would work on me after games and practices, and it really helped me feel better. As a chiropractor, we as a profession are trained to identify the spinal misalignments. We're also trained to correct those misalignments. Most of us do it by our hands. This in turn allows the body to function normally and allows it to heal itself. There is research and studies that demonstrate that chiropractic is clinically effective, cost-effective, and very safe. Here are just a few organizations that have looked into chiropractic care and treatment, and the studies that they have done, the research into it, backs up those statements. What we're going to discuss in this video includes the 3 T's, the cause of spinal misalignments, the consequences of having them, going from a state of dis-ease to disease, but most importantly, what we can do to fix the misalignments. Here's a roadmap that we'll follow throughout this presentation. Don't get overwhelmed by it right now because we're going to break it down piece by piece. It's important to understand the basic structure of our back and neck. The bones in our back and neck stack on top of one another, and they are termed vertebra. These vertebrae form our entire spinal column, and when they are in normal alignment, it allows our body to function normally. Problems begin to arise when those vertebrae become misaligned. To start, let's delve into the cause of spinal misalignments. The 3 T's refer to the cause of spinal misalignments. They are trauma, thoughts, and toxins. The first one, trauma, is probably the easiest to comprehend. With trauma, there is a clear cause and effect relationship. So if I'm in a car accident and I have whiplash injury to my neck, that force could displace the vertebra and cause them to become misaligned. And there's actually 2 different types of trauma. There's the acute traumatic trauma and chronic. So the traumatic is the car accident I just described, but also another example would say you have somebody that just slipped and fell and landed on their back. That force could definitely cause a displacement of the vertebra. Chronic trauma, on the other hand, happens over time. So these are acute microtraumas that eventually build up to the vertebra being misaligned. So let's say we have a worker that does a lot of bending and lifting for his job. He picks stuff up on the floor and puts it on the shelves all day. Well, if he's not using good form when he's lifting, that stress could be enough to put those vertebrae out of alignment. And I also see this with people on their cell phones all day. They develop what's called text neck syndrome. Basically, it's affecting the curvature of their neck and is causing the vertebra to become displaced. The next of the 3 T's is thoughts. Now, I know what you might be thinking. How can thoughts, something that's not even physical, cause a physical manifestation of my vertebra going out of place? Well, the best way to imagine this is to think about thoughts and equate it to stress. And let me ask you, how do you feel when you're stressed out? I bet you feel pretty tense, probably have a lot of muscle tightness, might even be developing some trigger points up in your traps muscles and around your shoulders and neck. Well, those muscles becoming tight, if they connect to the vertebra, that tightness alone could be enough to pull them out of place. But with stress, we also get an increase in cortisol secretion and other inflammatory substances. And when the body becomes chronically inflamed, overall it increases the muscle tension throughout the entire body. And again, if those muscles are tight from being inflamed and they connect to the vertebra, they might pull them out of place. The last of the 3 T's is toxins, and this one has a lot to do with inflammation as well. The best way to understand toxins is just to equate it to diet. And are you eating too much of the bad stuff, the foods that are bad for you and are pro-inflammatory, increasing inflammation in the body? Are you not eating enough anti-inflammatory foods, foods that are good for you and decrease inflammation? And if you're eating too much of the bad stuff, not enough of the good stuff, you can increase the overall systemic inflammation in your body, again, increasing muscle tightness, causing vertebra to go out of place. So, any one of the 3 T's or a combination of them can lead to spinal misalignments. They are a problem because underneath our vertebra, within them and traveling through them, is our nervous system, our spinal cord, and the nerves. Our nervous system acts as the primary communication network for our entire body and has numerous functions. If you have a misalignment, it can inflame the nervous system and disrupt its normal function. And since the nervous system goes throughout our entire body, the problems can manifest and spread. So let's just go back to the car accident. Have a whiplash injury, causes neck pain, misalignments in the neck, but now all of a sudden the person might be having pain, numbness, and tingling shooting down their arm because it is affecting their nervous system. When you have misalignments, you are in a state that is called dis-ease, not to be confused with disease, which is actual medical conditions. It is just the state of having misalignments. So with this, the person may or may not have pain, may or may not have symptoms, but the problems are very real because of the effects on the nervous system. And like I said, there's no detectable medical condition in just the state of dis-ease alone. A lot of times people in this state, they don't necessarily feel sick, but they don't feel well. So a thing I'll commonly hear is, "Doc, my back just doesn't feel right. There's not a lot of pain, but I just feel like something's not quite right." When you have misalignments and are in a state of dis-ease, you basically have one of 2 choices. You could ignore the problem and hope that it goes away on its own, but it's probably not going to. And if the misalignments, the problem from them, the problem they cause on the nervous system become worse and worse and worse, you might find yourself in a state of actual disease. Now this is a problem and we want to avoid it. Because when you have disease, this is where we actually get like the medical conditions, for example, arthritis. But also like, let's say the worker who did a lot of repetitive bending and lifting with poor form. If he doesn't get that corrected, he might end up with a herniated disc. The severity of the disease will depend on the cause. And the problem with disease is once you get here, these problems tend to be chronic, sometimes even permanent, and can be very painful and debilitating. So let's avoid this. Let's avoid this route. Let's avoid the path to disease. Let's choose a different route. Let's take action so that we can get on the path of correction and get those misalignments taken care of. What can we do to get those misalignments taken care of? Chiropractic has the treatment of choice for getting those misalignments realigned. The chiropractic adjustment, which is usually done by hand, has a specific contact, a specific line of drive, and helps correct those misalignments. In addition to the chiropractic adjustment, you can do stuff at home, like self-care, to help address the misalignments as well. And this can help correct and even prevent the cause, the 3 T's of the spinal misalignments. Self-care works synergistically with chiropractic care so that you can get those misalignments better managed, maybe even prevent them in the first place. And so again, you can attack each T. You can go back and prevent the cause. So let's tackle the T's. Let's discuss some of the options to correct the misalignments from the T's. If you recall, the first of the 3 T's was trauma. So if you have a trauma that's displaced your vertebra, a good solution to that would be chiropractic care, the chiropractic adjustment. Again, it addresses and realigns the misaligned vertebra. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about the very severe forms of trauma. If you've had a fracture or another acute pathology, obviously you want to go to the emergency room and get that taken care of, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about traumas that have caused a displacement of the vertebra. What else can we do? We can do what's called RICE. RICE stands for rest, ice, compression, and elevation. And this is good for those acute traumatic type of traumas. If I sprained my ankle and it's starting to swell and it's painful, I'd want to get off my feet, put some ice on it, wrap it up so it's compressed, and put some pillows under my leg so my ankle is elevated. You can also do home therapies. Let's take a look at some of those. One of my favorite is foam rollers, and this is especially good for those chronic type of traumas. Foam rollers get into tight contracted muscles and work them out, and it helps mobilize the area. You can also use TENS units. They use an electrical current that runs through the body and helps block the pain. Topicals are also a choice. That usually entails stuff that has menthol in it that can block the pain. But my personal favorite is essential oils. They have anti-inflammatory properties to them. And one in particular is peppermint oil, which is just a natural occurring source of menthol. You might also think about orthotics. So if you have maybe flat feet or pronated feet, orthotics can help give your body good structure, a good base to stand on. And also with this, if you have, say, problems with your curvature in your neck, you might look at cervical pillows. In any case, before you start home therapy, I highly recommend that you see a doctor, a specialist, a chiropractor to make sure you use it appropriately and as necessary. And lastly, a thing that you can do for self-care to address trauma would be stability exercises. Exercise does not have to be overly complicated. In fact, if you haven't worked out or done any physical activity in a long time, a walking program is a great place to start. It can be done in as little as 10 minutes a day, and you can build from there. And walking has many health benefits. It's great for your cardiovascular system, it's great for coordination, and it helps build stabilizing muscles in your body. Also with building stabilizing muscles, you can do weight training and core training. I would recommend getting with a personal trainer or somebody that's an expert in this area so that you can build proper muscle balance and use good form in your training. And resistance bands are something that can really target the stabilizing muscles in your body so that you get an appropriate muscle balance to hold your vertebra in alignment where they should be. The next of the 3 T's was thoughts. And if you remember, this is stress. So if you're so stressed out that it's causing your muscles to become very tense and pulling your vertebra out of alignment, a great place to start is getting chiropractic treatment so we can get those vertebrae realigned. But also you can do stuff at home like stress management. With stress management, I highly correlate it with time management. If you tend to procrastinate or put off major projects, that can cause a huge amount of stress when those projects meet their deadline. So if you can plan your day out ahead of time so you're constantly putting time towards those big projects when you should be, that might really help you out. You also want to make sure you're getting enough sleep at night, because when you're sleep deprived, it can magnify all your problems. And with your time management, you want to make sure you schedule times or activities that you enjoy. So if you enjoy getting out and fishing, take the time to go do it. If you enjoy going to games like basketball, baseball, football games, make sure you're taking the time to go do that. And I've always found, just on a personal level, that if I get out in nature, I just feel better. So I like to go for walks out on trails. So I'm out in nature, and it just helps me in so many ways. And again, walking is good for you as well. So you get both exercise and some stress relief. You can also do meditation. Now, I know what you might be thinking with meditation. You get a picture of some guru sitting outside on a mountain cliff somewhere in some yoga pose, saying Om and all this sort of weird stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily be like that. In fact, it can be a very simple procedure. Basically, meditation is the act of clearing your mind. So you're thinking of nothing. So if you have some stressful thoughts, some worries going on, you're basically letting those go. So you're not thinking about anything. And you're taking nice, deep breaths, just allowing your body to become relaxed. And this doesn't have to be overly complicated. It can be done in just minutes a day. But if you're more interested in learning more about meditation, you can go online. There's tons of resources out there. Just Google meditation and you will get thousands of articles on meditation and how to properly do it. And lastly, again, exercise comes up. We can use it as a therapy. So I myself, I've always found exercise to be an outlet. If I'm stressed, if I'm overwhelmed, if I go in and work out, do some weight training, I always feel better afterwards. And there's some great research out there that's showing there's a clear benefit and correlation between exercise and mental health. And if you just think about it, it just makes sense. If you have a healthy body, you have a healthy mind. And there are plenty of options, like if you're really stressed out, some good exercises to do. Yoga is great, Tai Chi, just because they tend to be a little bit more relaxing too. So you can focus on getting good exercise and relieving some mental stress. And the last of the 3 T's is toxins. Remember, let's equate this to diet. So if you have a really bad diet and it's really inflaming your system to the point where you have muscle tightness that's pulling your vertebra out of place, again, let's start with chiropractic. You might have guessed this one. We want to get those vertebrae realigned. You need the adjustment to get in there and get them corrected. But also, let's just take a look. If your diet is out of whack, let's try to focus on decreasing some of the inflammatory foods. So the inflammatory foods are sugar, trans fats, and processed foods. Sugar, commonly found in like cookies, candies, cakes, sodas, doesn't offer a lot of nutritional value. Trans fats, they're starting to crack down on these and regulate them a little more, just because the health effects they're having on people's bodies was so bad that they had to start regulating and getting rid of some of them. And processed foods, basically they've taken natural whole foods, stripped them of all the good stuff, left you with all the bad stuff, and it might taste good, but it can wreak havoc on your bodies. In addition to decreasing the inflammatory foods, you also want to increase the anti-inflammatory foods. Some good anti-inflammatory foods include fruits and vegetables. My favorite would be berries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and vegetables would be green leafy vegetables like spinach. Eating healthy fats is also important. So omega-3s are commonly found in fish and flax seeds and can be really beneficial for inflammation levels. Olive oil is also a great fat for inflammation. Probiotics are the bacteria found in our gut, and they're actually beneficial bacteria. They're found in fermented foods, including yogurt, kefir, even sauerkraut. And having a good balance of probiotics in our gut can help fight inflammation. Basically, it comes down to balance. A balance between the inflammatory foods and anti-inflammatory foods. I'm by no means saying that you can never have those inflammatory foods. It's just when the diet goes overboard on them that problems start to develop, and you're not eating enough of the good stuff with the bad stuff. So you want to make sure you have a complete and well-balanced diet. And lastly, we can talk about supplements. A few good supplements out there that can help round out your diet would be omega-3s. So if you are not a fan of eating fish, you can supplement with either fish oil or flax oil to increase the omega-3 balance of your diet. Turmeric is a spice or an herb that has been shown to have some great anti-inflammatory properties to it. very similar to, say, some of the over-counter products that you use, but it might not have the negative side effects with it as well. And then you can use multivitamins, probiotics, kind of as an insurance package if your diet does not include enough of them like it should. I do want to mention supplements can help, but the base, the foundation has to be your diet. You have to have your diet in check, and no amount of supplements can correct for a poor diet. So let's just recap on everything I've gone over. We've gone over the 3 T's, trauma, thoughts, toxins, and how they cause spinal misalignments. How we go from a state of disease and having misalignments to actually having medical conditions, the state of disease. And what we can do to fix it, the chiropractic adjustment, getting chiropractic care, and taking care of ourselves at home so that we can prevent the cause and do stuff that synergistically works with chiropractic treatment to help maintain alignment. In the end, it's your choice. It's your body. You get to decide what you want to do. Are you going to ignore the problem and possibly have it get worse and worse and worse until you find yourself in a state of actual disease, until you find yourself in a state of sickness? Or are you willing to take action? Take the appropriate steps so you can get on the path of correction and find yourself in a state of wellness. The choice is yours. But I highly recommend, if you're having problems from trauma, thoughts, or toxins, that you go see a specialist so you can get it taken care of. If you have misalignments, I highly recommend you go see a chiropractor so we can address those and get them taken care of. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you learned something. I hope you can take something away from this so you can take some action and get on the path of correction and find yourself in a state of wellness. Again, this is Dr. Dan Tweeten, and I hope you have a wonderful day.